In the scorching heat of the Arizona desert, where the sun beat down mercilessly on the cracked earth, an old man walked alone along a dusty trail. His weathered face told stories of decades lived under harsh skies, and his gait was slow, almost labored. He wore simple clothes, a faded shirt and worn trousers, and carried nothing but a small leather satchel across his shoulder. To anyone watching, he appeared to be exactly what he seemed, a vulnerable elderly traveler, far from any town or settlement, completely defenseless. 3 riders spotted him from a ridge above the trail. They were outlaws, wanted men who had fled south after a botched bank robbery in Colorado. Their faces were hidden behind dusty bandanas, their hands never far from the revolvers at their hips. The leader, a tall man with cruel eyes named Jake Sullivan, smiled beneath his mask. Easy prey, he thought. The old man probably had whatever meager savings he'd managed to scrape together over his lifetime, and out here, there would be no witnesses. The 3 outlaws descended from the ridge, their horses kicking up clouds of dust as they approached. The old man stopped walking and simply stood there, watching them come. He didn't run or call out for help. He just waited, his dark eyes calm and steady, as if he'd been expecting them all along. Jake pulled his horse to a stop just a few feet from the old man, his companions flanking him on either side. "Well, well," Jake drawled, his hand resting on his gun. "What do we have here? Old-timer, you picked a dangerous road to travel alone. Real dangerous." The other 2 outlaws laughed, a harsh sound that echoed across the empty landscape. The old man said nothing. He simply looked up at them with an expression that wasn't quite fear, but wasn't defiance either. It was something else entirely, something the outlaws couldn't quite place. "We're gonna need whatever you got in that bag," said the second outlaw, a stocky man named Red. "And whatever money you're carrying. Hand it over nice and easy, and maybe we'll let you walk away from this." Still, the old man remained silent. His weathered hands moved slowly to the strap of his satchel, and he began to lower it from his shoulder. The movement was deliberate, unhurried, as if he had all the time in the world. As he did so, his shirt collar shifted slightly, revealing just a glimpse of his neck and upper chest. The third outlaw, a young man barely into his 20s named Billy, was the first to see it. His eyes widened, and his hand, which had been moving toward his gun, froze in midair. "Wait," he said, his voice suddenly uncertain. "Wait, look at his neck." Jake's eyes followed Billy's gaze, and what he saw made his blood run cold. There, partially visible beneath the old man's collar, was the unmistakable edge of a tattoo. But this wasn't just any tattoo. It was a tribal marking, intricate and elaborate, done in the traditional style of the Apache warriors. Even from their position on horseback, they could see the distinctive patterns, the symbols that marked this man as something far more than a helpless old traveler. The old man, seeing their recognition, slowly pulled his collar aside to reveal more of the marking. The tattoo covered his entire chest and shoulders, a masterpiece of traditional ink work that told a story of battles fought and enemies vanquished. But it was the specific symbols within the pattern that made the outlaw's hands tremble. These were the marks of a war chief, a leader of men, someone who had earned his place through countless acts of courage and violence. "Sweet Jesus," Red whispered, his face going pale beneath his bandana. That's a warrior marking. A real one." Jake's mouth had gone dry. He'd heard stories, legends told around campfires and in saloons across the territories. Stories of Apache warriors who had fought against the U.S. Army, against Mexican forces, against anyone who threatened their people. These weren't just fighters. They were legends, men whose very names struck fear into the hearts of seasoned soldiers. And the tattoos they wore were earned through trials that would break lesser men. The old man finally spoke, his voice deep and steady, carrying the weight of authority that came from years of command. "You wanted what I carry," he said in perfect English, though his accent spoke of another language being his first. "You wanted to take from me because you thought I was weak. You thought my age made me helpless." He took a step forward, and all 3 horses nervously stepped back, sensing something in the old man that their riders were only beginning to understand. "I am called Silent Thunder by my people. 52 winters ago, when I had seen only 16 summers, I tracked and killed 3 Mexican soldiers who had burned my village. I was alone, they were armed, and I had only a knife. The old man's eyes grew distant, as if seeing into the past. 38 winters ago, I fought alongside Cochise against the American cavalry. I counted coups 17 times in a single day. 25 winters ago, I led a war party that protected our people from raiders who thought, like you, that they could take what they wanted without consequence. Billy's hand had moved completely away from his gun now. He looked like he wanted nothing more than to turn his horse and ride away as fast as possible. Red was equally terrified. His earlier bravado completely evaporated. But Jake, despite his fear, felt his pride wounded. He was a wanted man, known across 3 territories. He'd killed before, and the old man, warrior or not, was still just one person against 3 armed outlaws. That was a long time ago, Jake said, though his voice lacked its earlier confidence. You're old now. Those days are behind you. The old man smiled, but there was no warmth in it. A warrior's spirit does not age as the body does. The skills learned in blood do not fade with time. They become refined, perfected, made more deadly by experience and patience. He reached up and fully opened his shirt, revealing the complete expanse of his tattoos. The markings covered his torso, each symbol representing a battle, a victory, an enemy defeated. You see these marks, the old man continued. Each one tells a story. Each one was earned in combat. This one, he pointed to a symbol near his heart, is for the first man I killed in battle. This one, he indicated another near his shoulder, marks the day I saved my chief's life by taking 3 arrows meant for him and still fighting on. This one, he touched a marking on his ribs, commemorates the night I infiltrated an enemy camp alone and rescued 5 children who had been taken from our village. The old man took another step forward, and this time the outlaws actually backed their horses up several paces. But this one, he said, pointing to a symbol directly in the center of his chest, this is the one you should pay attention to. This marks me as someone who has taken the warrior's oath. Do you know what that oath says? None of the outlaws answered. They sat frozen on their horses, transfixed by the old man's presence, by the quiet authority in his voice, by the undeniable truth in his eyes. The oath says that a warrior protects those who cannot protect themselves. It says that a warrior stands against injustice wherever he finds it. And it says that a warrior never backs down from those who prey on the weak and helpless. The old man's eyes hardened. You saw an old man walking alone, and you thought to rob him, perhaps to kill him. You are predators who hunt the vulnerable. And I am sworn to stand against predators. The air seemed to grow heavy with tension. The sun beat down on the 4 men, and somewhere in the distance, a hawk cried out. The old man's hand moved with surprising speed to his satchel, and the outlaws' hands flew to their guns. But before they could draw, the old man had produced not a weapon, but a small carved stone. This, he said, holding up the stone, is a remembrance stone. My grandson carved it for me before he left to study at the university in the East. He is the first of our family to receive such education. He believes in the new ways, in building a future through knowledge rather than warfare. I carry this to remind me that the world is changing, that there are new paths forward. The old man lowered the stone and looked up at the 3 riders. I am old, yes. And I am tired. Tired of violence, tired of death, tired of seeing young men make the same mistakes, follow the same dark paths. If I were the warrior I was 30 winters ago, the 3 of you would already be dead. I would have heard your horses on the ridge, would have positioned myself perfectly, would have taken you all down before you even knew you were in danger. He paused, letting his words sink in. But I am not that warrior anymore. I have chosen a different path, one that honors my grandson's vision of the future. So I will give you a choice that I would never have given in my younger days. You can ride away from here now, immediately, and never speak of this encounter. You can leave this territory, find honest work, and live the rest of your lives in peace. Or, the old man's eyes flashed with something ancient and dangerous. Or you can try to take what you came for. You can test whether this old body still remembers the ways of war. You can discover whether the skills that made me a legend among my people have truly faded. But I warn you, if you choose that path, at least one of you will not leave this place alive. Perhaps all 3 of you will stay here forever, becoming bones bleached by the same sun that watches us now. The silence that followed was deafening. Jake looked at his companions and saw his own fear reflected in their eyes. Billy looked like he might be sick. Red was trembling visibly. The old man simply stood there, patient and still, waiting for their decision. It was Billy who broke first. "I'm done," he said, his voice shaking. "Jake, I'm riding out. This ain't worth it." He started to turn his horse, then stopped and looked back at the old man. "I'm sorry, sir. We were wrong." Red quickly nodded in agreement. "Billy's right. This was a mistake. We'll leave you be." He too began turning his horse. Jake sat alone, his pride warring with his fear and his common sense. He looked down at the old man, at those ancient eyes that had seen so much death, that promised more death if pushed. And finally, he too nodded. "This wasn't our day," he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. He looked at the old man one last time. "You could have killed us, couldn't you? Even now, even at your age." The old man smiled again, and this time there was a touch of sadness in it. "Yes. But as I said, I am tired of killing. Go now. Find a better path. Honor the choice I have given you today." The three outlaws rode away slowly at first, then faster, until they were galloping across the desert as if pursued by demons. The old man watched them go until they disappeared over the ridge from which they'd come. Then he carefully buttoned his shirt, adjusted his satchel, and continued walking down the dusty trail. As he walked, Silent Thunder thought about his grandson, about the future the young man represented, about a world where old warriors could walk unarmed through dangerous lands without needing to prove what they once were. He touched the remembrance stone in his satchel and smiled. Perhaps that world was still far away, but it was a world worth walking toward, one patient step at a time.